Hi everyone, my name's Tate. We're going to be doing another kind of a safety how-to type video. So we're going to be dealing with the backup interface from SolarEdge and how to install one of the DIN rail style breakers that we have in case we need to replace the breaker or add a breaker as if we're adding more inverters or changing it out to maybe it comes with a 40 amp breaker, maybe we need to put a 20 in because we're doing a 3800. Or a 60 if we're doing a 10,000 or 11.4. So kind of getting into what that all means. So a couple things that most people don't know about these is that I think are always kind of interesting. One, your solar breaker is inside here. So if you have one of these at home and your solar's off, sometimes the breaker has tripped internally. You have to take the cover off. So the cover's right here. You'll just unbolt the 6 screws. They're Allen wrenches. You can also use a T25, works fairly well. And then get inside. Then we will want to, there's a couple things you're going to want to do. This is the 7-pin clip that operates all of the communication between the inverter and here. You're going to want to remove that, set it off to the side. It will have the cable on it, so just kind of let it hang. You're going to want to make sure the whole system is shut down properly, okay? Which means killing the power to your battery, to your inverter, and then killing power to your actual backup interface. So that the whole system is dead so it's safe to work on, because everywhere where this clips into is live all the time. So that is really important. A couple things to remember. There is a switch here. It says on and off. When you are on batteries, it will be on. It's a mechanical switch. When you are on city power, if you can't get the system to turn on and you've got city power back up, reach over and turn it to off. Off means city power or grid power. On means battery power. The other thing you might notice is there is another toggle switch. If we can come right down here. There's a toggle switch. We must have that on for it to function. I wish they'd get rid of that switch, but people forget that that is there right now. Everything else will work, but it will not go into backup unless that is in the on position. Okay? Now, a couple things you're going to need. Phillips head screwdriver of some sort. A torque wrench to reinstall the breaker, Phillips to remove the cover here, and an Allen wrench to take off the cover itself. So, one, we've got our 5 screws. These are all going to be, you got your 6 Allen wrench head screws here. We have our 5 Phillips head screws, and this whole cover comes off. Okay, and we want to take that guy off. That's why we're going to have to remove that cable. Once we got the cable removed, we're going to come in, and if we can zoom in here, this is where the breaker is actually setting. Now it has 2 screws, which I like using the Phillips electrician head, which is the flathead Phillips combo. And we're going to go ahead and loosen up these screws here. Now remember, we have the ability to put 3 breakers in here. So if we have 3 separate inverters, we can hook it all up in here to make it a whole house solution if we have enough solar. So we can go ahead and loosen that guy up, loosen this guy up. And then we have on the original chin breaker that's in here, and I'm going to, hopefully you guys can see this, but there's 2 little clips on the very bottom. And what you're going to do, and I'll see if I can light this up a little bit here so you guys can see it. I don't know, is that any better, Chris, or is it worse? Okay. So what we're going to do is there's a little clip we have to push down, so you'll see a little wrap here and a little clip. You got to push the clip down and pull out. So you can't just pull on it, it won't come open. You got to push down on that clip and pull out. That releases the breaker. Okay, on the new one it's a little different, but we'll show you that in a second. So once we've got that done, now we can work to pulling out the actual breaker itself. Now one thing I've found that is a little easier, because it is kind of tight in here, is to remove these 2 screws here. They're just Phillips heads. Just go ahead and pop those guys out of there. And that allows this bar, the DIN rail here, to be able to move back and forth, okay? Once we've removed that and we've taken out our wires from our inverter, if we just grab it and push up while we're pushing on the DIN rail bar itself, and push up and lift up, it will pop right out, okay? Because there is a groove right here that is sitting in there. If you don't take out those screws, sometimes it is very hard to get it to move high enough to where I can get this guy out. Now this breaker we're replacing because it's bad in our scenario. We're going to replace it with an ABB breaker, so just kind of keep that in mind. Remember, green is off, red is on. So, kind of like green is okay to touch, red, you're gonna hurt yourself. Red is dead. So always remember that. That's kind of how they work on these breakers. So when they're in the off position, so when you match them up, really they should be in the down position is going to be off. So when you put them back in. Now the ones we use are the ABB, and some of the other versions have this too. They come with the wings. As you look, it looks like the wrong breaker. So you'll see it has these wings. You'll just take your Kleins and just tap those real quick, and they just pop right off, okay? So they just slide right off on both sides. Real work, easy, set of dikes, set of Kleins, anything works. Just anything, and it does not take that much effort. You just tap them and they come right off, okay? So once you've got to that point, then realizing this is a slightly different breaker because it is spring loaded. So these guys are spring loaded, not pull out and lock in. So it's a little harder to install, kind of. Now the other thing we're going to want to do is make sure we open up the screws all the way. So they are all the way open. So when we put them back on the DIN rail, they'll go in. So we're going to line those two bolts up. And if you pull up and down on the actual bar here, remember we want this totally dead because it's a little dangerous if it's live. We're going to pull up on the bar, up on these other pins here, and that allows the breaker to slide right in. And then if we grab the DIN rail breaker, the DIN bar again, and we just lock it in place, and we're just going to push against it, and it locks right in place, okay? And this is the hardest part about getting this guy in, is getting it to slip over that little edge. And once we've got it in there, which can be a little tough, and that's why I'm glad this one's being a little pain, to get that guy in there, you will have to kind of push it forward until it pops over the top. Now once it pops over the top, you'll have to come in here and pull back on your pins, and it will slowly pop over the back until it clips in place. So once you've got both those in, and you see how that goes in there, once it's locked on, you'll feel it drop over, and then if you pulled your pins out on the back, spring loaded wise, you'll hear them click in, and just make sure they're pushed in tight. Once they're pushed in tight, on the side of the breaker, if you look on the breaker here, it gives you the rating here for a 16 to 6 gauge wire of 17.8 pounds. And this is inch pounds, so you're going to be using an inch pound screwdriver, so please don't use a wrench. So we go ahead and set our tool for inch pounds. So we're going to go all the way down to 10 is usually the easiest way. And then go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And 0.8 is a little hard, so we're just going to go to 18 pounds. I'm going to go ahead, take our breaker. Hear the click. And hear the click. So this breaker is back installed. We can go ahead and put our cover back on. Bolt it all back in place. Put our Cat 5 back in, and we're all set. And that, hopefully, is how to change out a DIN rail breaker. So if you guys have any questions, please like, subscribe, add your questions at the bottom. Can't answer questions we don't have. So hit us up, guys, and as always, have a great day.